We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.
Well, it's been another busy week on the Real Estate Podcast, and I don't know about you, but it feels like we are in for another bumper year of prices. Of course, that remains to play out to see what happens in reality, and all is probably going to be revealed soon enough in 2022, and there's a lot of predictions that we will follow closely here on the podcast. And thanks to all of my guests over the last 10 days who were all great to talk with. And coming soon, we've got a very special market update which we're going to feature every Saturday morning at 8:30. I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about that soon. And as we go about trying to live our daily lives as normal as possible, one of the stats that I found really interesting this week was when I was talking with Simon Kustenmacher from the Demographics Group, and he threw up a couple of really interesting stats about how lucky anyone is living in Australia during these crazy times of living with COVID.
Well, the good news here is that the world will judge all of the countries on the globe basically on just two very simple metrics once this whole thing is over. The first metric will be the number of deaths per 1 million people. And Australia is performing absolutely beautifully on this metric. You are pretty much 40 times more likely to be alive by the simple fact that you live in Australia compared to the United States or compared to Europe. So whatever the pain of the lockdowns were to you, to your business, as a country, we managed to keep our population healthy and alive. So that metric will be front of mind when the world judges the performance of countries throughout the pandemic. The second metric countries will look at is the vaccination rate. They will look at countries and say, well, how well did the countries actually perform in protecting themselves, or how well did the state protect their citizens by making vaccines available? And we have a fantastic uptake of the vaccine, even though we started about half a year later than the US with actually getting our hands on vaccines. So Australia is performing really well on those two tasks. Maybe if you wanted to throw in a third metric that people would be looking at, it would be the change of GDP before and post-COVID, whenever post-COVID will be.
You know, Simon, I have not heard any politician, it may have been spoken about, but that statistic of 40 times more likely to die if you're living in America versus living in Australia, I haven't heard any politician mention that.
It's surprising to me because we are performing really well. I think there is a certain, tendency, if you will, in society that might reach the politicians of, you don't want to talk about this in a positive way because you want to keep up the narrative of this being extremely serious, and you have to take this whole thing, be very careful in how you approach the topic. And just shouting about the fact how well we are protecting our citizens might just lead to complacency or something like this. Is something that a politician might think about, but I think it's something to actually be proud about and to talk about an awful lot, just how well we are performing compared to other countries. Maybe we are not talking about it that much because there is a country that is performing even better than we are, and that's New Zealand, and who wants to give them any clout?
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.